Hello, welcome to Hard Refresh, the original podcast from State of Social 2025. What are we doing here, you might ask? Well, we are polishing off our standard issue State of Social crystal ball and peering into the next 25 years of digital marketing, trying to understand the technologies, the trends, the cultural shifts, and maybe even the controversies that are going to shape this industry and society at large. My name is Andrés López-Varela. You can call me ALV. Everybody does. And today we're recording on the traditional lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people, live at State of Social 2025. And in this episode, we're going to do a hard refresh on branded content. Brands are no longer just advertisers. They're publishers, podcasters, filmmakers, even newsbreakers, and they have been for a while. But as newsrooms shrink, branded content has stepped in to fill the void. But is that a public service or is that an issue? As the influence of branded content grows, will audiences care about who's behind the story, or will quality trump the origin of that content? We're going to dig into how credibility survives in a branded world, whether branded content undermines journalism, and if we're heading toward a future where brands run their own entertainment platforms, completely blurring the lines between commerce and culture. All right, and taking their positions in the hot seats for today's chat are Amaury Treguer, co-founder of Bread Agency, a specialist social media agency. Amo, how are you?
Yeah, very good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Kate O'Connor, a consultant who used to run Bluey at BBC Studios. How are you, Kate?
I'm great, thank you.
Thanks for being here too. And Keshnee Kemp, the founder of August One, a data-driven social media marketing firm, and also the former head of content at Woolworths. Welcome. How are you?
Good, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you. Have you guys been enjoying State of Social?
It's incredible. It's been such a great couple of days.
Fantastic event. The weather's even sorted itself out for us now.
And very well organised.
Yeah,
Yes.
really well.
Yes, no, it's great. It's great. I love it. I'm so happy to be able to talk to you guys and to all the speakers. It's fantastic. So, all right, let's dive into it. Everyone ready?
Sure.
Time to do a hard refresh. All right, I want to start by just acknowledging that we're all on a branded podcast right now, talking about the future of branded content. So the irony of that is not lost on me. It's a little bit inception-y. But hey, this is nothing new, right? Like podcasts, documentary-style videos, feature articles, magazine. Like brands have been publishing content at scale for more than 2 decades now. And everyone's used to it. In fact, we're probably maybe consuming more branded content than we are, editorial content by this point. Keshnee, do you think audiences care about where they're getting their content from, or from a media publisher or a brand anymore? Are they just chasing what's best aligned to their interests, or are they just seeing what's kind of coming into their feed?
Yeah, I don't think they care as long as it makes sense in context of their experience and it makes sense for the brand. So if the brand shows up authentically, if it makes sense for them to be playing in that space, then I think it makes sense for them, So no, I don't think they would differentiate between, oh no, this brand is creating something within my platform that is engaging me. I won't engage because it's a brand. Absolutely not. If good content's good content.
And do you think that if they had a choice between branded and editorial content, would they choose branded over editorial?
I think if it's authentic, if it's correct, if it's engaging, I don't think they give a shit, to be honest.
Yeah. Right.
I think they just like content for being great content. I've worked in a brand that has a lot of branded content, and never once has there been a question about, oh no, it comes from this brand and therefore I wouldn't engage with something that naturally I want to engage with. So good content's good content.
Yeah. What do you think, Amo?
Yeah, I feel the exact same. Like when you've got a lineup of speakers like we are. No, I'm joking, but who cares? Who is backing this up? I think if the content is right, if whoever is participating in that content, and it could be in this example of a podcast, 3 of us, we all have very different. 4 of us, I guess, all have very different kind of backgrounds. I think we, as long as what we say is interesting, I think that's probably the hook. Is trying to find something interesting what we've been up to, and but yeah, it doesn't matter if it's branded or not. I don't think so.
Kate, Bluey, obviously.
Look, I have a slightly different view. I think because I think it does matter, editorial versus branded content. I think that is something that, to me, coming from the BBC, which is at its heart a media, and a national broadcaster in the UK. I think. I love branded content. I think there's a huge place for it, but I also think it's different to editorial content. And I think there are some people like Hannah Ferguson from Chica Media who are doing a really good job of bringing those things together in a very, very credible way. But I don't think they necessarily belong together. And I think that it is good that people are able to recognise the difference between them.
And so do you think, Kate, that we should be making a clearer difference then, especially when branded content is placed in traditional media channels?
Well, I think people are just getting better at figuring out which is which. Well, I hope they are. I don't know. But, I think everyone you speak to, even like really young people, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, are pretty savvy at figuring out what's what. And they know when something is positioning itself as editorial, but it is actually branded content. And they're getting better at figuring that out.
I think there's a big difference too between advertorial and branded content. So you might have a sponsorship payment through an advertorial piece of content, which is written around a sponsorship's need and services. Very different from having recipes from a magazine of a brand, or having a guide or a point of view from an expert from a brand. Like, I think there's quite a few different levels of branded content.
Yes.
True branded content isn't advertorial content, shouldn't be, but that's probably the blurring of the lines. It's editorial from a brand or advertorial. And advertorial, people know it's an advertorial when they're reading it, because it sounds like it's telling you to buy the product or service. So even though the brand is in the background of branded content, should be good branded content, right? It's not always, should be. Then it should be perceived and consumed as editorial.
I mean, recipes are a great example, right, of when branded content is done right, because it's so credible. It's what your brand is known for, if that's what you're in the space of.
Yeah.
Recipes are exactly the kind of branded content that does blur the line in a really good way. So I would echo what Kesh has said.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess that leads me into a related topic quite well, actually. Like, traditional media is shrinking. The commercial models they used last century have, not translated as well to the digital age as maybe, we would have hoped, obviously, particularly with newspapers. And all that's kind of contributing to the proliferation, I guess, of branded content. There are these spaces that are opening up that maybe used to be filled by media publishers and editorial content, and, people are still demanding the content in some ways, and so brands are stepping in. But, Amo, do you think brands are genuinely filling a cultural gap here, or are they just doing what they do best, pursuing a commercial opportunity?
It's interesting because I think we all need, all brands are becoming publishers in their own rights. So we all, social channels obviously very much you need to fuel the beast. So they're obviously creating shitloads of content. And therefore, it's yes, of course, it's branded content. Sometimes they need to also kind of reach, also different audiences. The power of influencers and UGC is also for that. It's third-party endorsements. But realistically, I do feel that's the space that we're in. Now we need to kind of fuel the beast and kind of produce so much content. So it's all branded content at the moment. It's on your socials basically. So it doesn't really matter as long as you disclose that it's branded. But I think people are not stupid, as you were saying before. People will discern if it's it's been branded or not. But yeah, I don't think it matters, to be honest.
Yeah, Keshnee.
Yeah, look, I think that it's an interesting topic, because even actual traditional media platforms have a commercial bottom line also.
Of course.
And so technically, you're driving traffic in to be able to drive, have ads and drive revenue. So there's commercial incentive regardless of who is the publisher. Obviously some, very different to others. But I think it's natural for them to play in that space, not only from a awareness point of view, to be able to drive awareness of the brand, but also to be shown on, SEO platforms as well, like Instagram's the new SEO feeder, for example. Content has to be relevant if you want to show up in search. So it would be crazy for a brand not to be playing in this space if they can,
And so I wonder then, as you said, media publishers have commercial models, trying to create audiences to drive ad revenue or subscription revenue, I guess. Increasingly, can brands adopt this model? Can brands adopt that model, particularly around subscription, where if their content is good enough, they can demand a regular price, $9.99 a month? What do you think, Kate?
Why not? I mean, why not? Everybody's trying lots of things at the moment to see what sticks for them. And I mean, from my side, looking at it from a, Bluey is an entertainment brand. We have a lot of fans. And so the content was always really generated for fans. It wasn't generated to try and make money out of a subscription. It is about really bringing the fans a place that they can connect. And social has been amazing for that. And Bluey's social team is really good at kind of connecting people. But sure, why not? I mean, brands can do anything these days.
Yeah.
I think if you've got the audience and the value, it's all about that kind of, that value exchange. Like, if you give me a very good reasons to follow and kind of pay for that subscription because you give me exclusive access that you might not see, those broadcast channels are very good examples of, or like kind of, the membership acts, that even influencers are asking for.
Yes.
Like, hey, you want to see more of my content. You are obviously very interested in what I do. Hey, pay $9.99 or whatever,
Yeah.
and then I give you exclusive access that no one else will see. If you really kind of have that kudos, or like probably Bluey ad or as, then of course people will pay for it, regardless if it's branded or not, or if it's an influencer or not.
Yeah.
I think it's so critical to really see that value exchange. If you don't provide value, then no, people will stop subscribing. Yeah,
they vote with their money, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I see this with how do you call this, like like platform, like streaming platforms.
Yes,
I see the same. I've kind of subscribed to Disney Plus, but then my daughter was not watching it. So I was like, well, I don't find any value. I stopped on that one. And I've got a few, and some you find the value, some you don't, and then you stop doing it. It's exactly the same, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it with Substack. Substack
exactly.
is starting to become a very much a subscription model where people are creating their own content and charging for it. And I think it's great to see.
Yeah, I've even seen some brands on there doing like behind the scenes looks, and and then having an extra tier, a paid tier, which works well. I think definitely, yeah. So I guess it's true that branded content is better than content from publishers. Sometimes it can be, if it's well resourced, and Keshnee, as you said, if it's good understanding of the audience and the quality is there, there's no reason why that content can't be on the same level or be better than media or editorial content. Does that mean that if that continues, let's say if we project forward to 5 years' time or 10 years' time, when there's a lot of consolidation in traditional media, there's less and less smaller media brands, that marketing and brands with their content will finally have, supplanted traditional media as the mainstream media, Keshnee?
Maybe, like it's hard to say, right?
Yeah.
I think that the most important thing is, this value exchange that we've already referenced, but I think building communities is the way forward. So building communities through whichever platform, if you can continue to build and expand the community, then you will have a future in that space. I don't think it really makes a difference who starts that. If it's, a brand or a media platform, if you give up on the community, you give up on longevity of being in that space. And so, I couldn't say one would beat the other. It's just the best, way to harness and engage and continue to entertain that community most effectively.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is like brands are so reliant on social platforms to build those communities. The problem is like platforms are changing. I mean, those social platforms are changing the algorithm without you knowing and without you even kind of, be able to plan. And that's, I think, one of the biggest concern is like, when you build those communities is where do you build those? Because, social following is a thing. It's great. It's probably where, the audience is, but it's how you drag them back to something that you own and something that is probably a bit more, where you've got access to the first party data and where you can kind of, really nurture those communities. So it needs to be almost sit outside your social channels and in kind of, I guess, brand-owned environments, which is always hard, but at least you've got the loyals. You've got the people who are really into it that will kind of follow and subscribe and kind of, and there are some, very good examples, especially in sports where of brands kind of, building those sub-communities where, and then they kind of also organize those in real life moments, because I think that's the other thing as well, is those communities online at some stage, they also need to kind of meet. Like you need to find those key moments where you can also engage them, like kind of not just online, but really offline. Because I think that's what people are craving for, to be honest. And that's what brands are also looking at doing. It's like, not only influencers, but doing kind of those community-based trips. And there are so many, especially in the beauty space.
Yes.
I think that's what I'm excited about is like, hey, build that community, not necessarily relying only on social. And then how do you nurture those communities? Thanks to good content, thanks to exclusive access. Thanks to kind of, just like, interesting trips or in real life events.
Yeah. So I'm conscious that, in the next couple of decades, the internet is only going to get more and more, I guess, fragmented. You know, it's going to get messier for marketers in particular. I hope it gets nicer. That's my hope. I don't know if that's a hope in vain. You know, but then it sort of becomes apparent to me that trust becomes harder to build for brands at scale. You know, because in the past they could do it with a brand ad on a Sunday night TV show, or they could sort of do it with, the right kind of advertising in the right sort of places. Now that content, and increasing as content becomes more and more of the mix, it becomes harder to, I guess, put that in the right places to build that trust and that relevance ongoing. But it does seem to me that it could also be a really useful business asset beyond just a piece of marketing, that it could actually help to build that trust, regain trust and create awareness of when something is, something's going wrong. It could almost act as a line of defense, if you like, for businesses and brands. Could content be used in a way that is a little bit more focused on the broader interests of a business rather than just for marketing?
I mean, I think it would be very worrying if people were considering trust as something that was used just for marketing. To me, trust is really at the heart of what you should be doing for your brand in general. It is about leading with brand values and trying to be very authentic and, build a brand that actually means something. And I think if you were to consider that part of your marketing arsenal rather than a foundation of your brand, you probably wouldn't be able to really garner the right trust because people see through that, I think.
But often it's marketing that when trust is broken, marketing is the ones they turn to go, what can you do to fix this? And so
it's too late by then.
Yes. Let's say it's definitely too late. But then I guess what I'm asking is, can branded content play the role in that more fractured digital environment that traditional advertising used to play when you wanted to say sorry or rebuild trust as a brand?
Absolutely. Like, it's really simple now to have the right, have a person from a business speaking on a phone and speaking direct to customers when something goes wrong. Like, that takes 20 seconds to do, and actually it's a preferred method of engagement for audiences on those platforms. So 100%, it shouldn't be used, content should be used as just ads. It should be probably predominant like 80-20, 80 content value out, 20 is ads if you want actual, performance and growth on social. So yeah, absolutely, I would say.
And I think in times of chaos, when something goes wrong with your company, that is the right way to be trying to get trust back, because most CEOs don't do that. They have big teams of people that tell them, that are maybe risk adverse or a little bit conservative in how they have gone about it in the past, particularly if they're a legacy brand. But what you would see if you looked at a lot of case studies on how brands apologize is the quicker that they do it and the more genuine they are in doing it. Usually the most senior person that can possibly do it, doing it fast and genuinely, makes a really big difference in how consumers respond to it.
We all remember that time when KFC ran out of chicken and then put that bucket with FCK. Like, fuck, we fucked up this time. Sorry, I don't know if we can swear.
We can.
Okay, cool.
That's okay. Feel free. Feel unburdened.
But I mean, exactly what you say. I think it's also thinking long term, because I think when you build a trust, is like if you kind of change strategy too often and too quickly, like it's like where you kind of probably losing that authenticity and the trust. I think it's like, what probably happened is like when you change kind of guard, like when there's a new marketing director in place or a new CEO,
yes.
Like, oh, we want to kind of change everything right away.
Relaunch, rebrand.
Exactly. And I think that's where you kind of probably losing that authenticity and the trust that kind of the brands have got. And so I think that's really kind of treating this very carefully, because you don't want to change the entire brand strategy because of personal. Yeah. It's really about that kind of making sure that whatever the assets are working or whatever strategy is working, is like how do you kind of carry this forward, even if you're new to the job. So it's really about that kind of the brand, the brand assets and kind of what the brand stands for, to be honest.
I want us to cast our minds much further into the future. We've got flying cars and everything. Imagine it's like 2045, right? And there's a handful of global brands that are, mega brands, if you like, and they are running their own branded entertainment platforms, ecosystems, right? Like Apple and Amazon are already on this path, right? Where they own the distribution platform and they own the content and, but actually brands. So, and Red Bull's another great example of this, right? What's the next frontier in branded content then when those brands own both the medium and the content and it's content that's sort of broadly about their brand? Is that just more streaming platforms? Is it, is it virtual worlds? Is it longer form content? Are they adopting old media formats in order to kind of fill out that landscape? What could you imagine that world, dystopian or otherwise, being like?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, Red Bull is a great example. I think we did chat a few days ago about Red Bull and Red Bull TV and what they do. Again, it's really about like kind of the platform that you've got, but also kind of the place that you play in culture and kind of how keen the audience is to hear from you. One thing as well I would say is like advertainments, and it's not new. Like I used to have a TV production business back home in Paris 20 years ago, and I was pitching to McDonald's having kind of branded content at McDonald's and kind of mini series that were backed up by McDonald's and kind of in their restaurants, and it was purely kind of branded content. And that's exactly what you do. It's like, again, if the storytelling is good and if people kind of like the different characters that are in those mini series, then people will consume that content regardless. And so that could be hosted on the website. That could be hosted on not a YouTube, because hopefully people would have moved on potentially. Not moved on because I really like YouTube, but like almost having their own YouTube channel, their own thing,
their own platform,
their own platforms, their own destinations. And again, because they will own the data, they will own that first party data. I think that's kind of, so it's really about like, the entertainment kind of, part of the, you just need to create good content, to be honest.
It sounds like what you're saying that if they're in those ecosystems, they have those platforms, they are maybe reverting to, more tried and tested formats.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
What do you think, Keshnee?
Oh, look, it's hard to predict a 2045 because we're moving so
absolutely.
fast, right?
Absolutely.
I wish I had that magic ball, but I would say that.
But also, if you make this prediction, nobody's going to hold you to it because
exactly.
So far in the future.
That's true. Amazing. Look, I think we'll go experiential for a little while. I think we'll all be able to access goggles and things within a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
And those experiences that we used to do in physical presence, which are a bit of a trend now, we'll probably do those digitally. So you're still connecting, but you're an experience that isn't actually taking you too far away from your screen. I think that's next. Simplification of shopping and general experiences is going to change significantly. We're a little behind here. We don't have some of the easy ways of shopping yet. We will have them, TikTok shop, except when that comes. But simplification, non-friction experiences for customers and audiences will be the next thing. So the brands that adapt quickly into experiential and simplification of getting from A to B will be the biggest winners right away. Then I'm interested to see what comes next after that.
Yeah. Do you think any differently, Kay?
No, I agree entirely. I kind of just think then the next generation will go back to having market stalls because, that's how it all works.
And
it's
printing magazines.
Yeah.
Cool. That's kind of wholesome, though. That's kind of a wholesome idea. And I think that the one thing that I've noticed in these conversations is that we feel like, as an industry, it feels like we are moving slightly sort of, bringing nostalgia back in a practical way, not just for sort of like an emotional value, but actually because of its practical capabilities for telling stories, for communicating with audiences, for building communities, as you've all said, that those actually have, a lot of value, I guess, in digital environments anyway.
Yeah.
I was really surprised to hear that from everyone, to be honest. But again, I think it's really wholesome, so that's kind of nice. All right, before we wrap it up, we've got just enough time for this rapid-fire refresh round. So these questions are for like spicy takes and whatever comes into your mind first, right? Like I said, Keshnee,
careful what you wish for.
In 20 years' time, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to fact-check you, right? All right, let's start with this one. In 2050, will brands as we know it now, will they still exist, or will we have hit refresh on that idea?
A brand will certainly exist. I think you will probably reduce the number of brands that are in market for each category, but definitely the strongest will be, will still be holding true and will still be there.
Yeah, a lot of consolidation.
100%.
Yeah. All right, what's one marketing buzzword you'd refresh straight into the garbage? I feel like you've got a good one, Kate.
Probably, I guess, people talk a lot about authenticity, but you have to live it.
Yes.
So if you're not living it, everyone talks about it, but you've got to back it up by living it as well.
Yes. You'd be surprised how many people. I've been saying I should keep a tally board on the wall, or turn
Authentic.
into a drinking game, because
I know.
everyone's podcast will be drunk by now. Yeah. All right. If AI got a chance to look at and refresh your job description, what would it throw out and say? Oh, you don't need to do this anymore.
All the boring shit.
Yeah.
Would be great.
Yeah.
And then leave the brain work and space for actual creativity of lived experience, like being able to take an emotion that can only be felt now by lived experience and human experience, and then taking the automation part out of the role. That would be my dream.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure people said also, they wanted to do their accounting and their
Yeah,
zero
yeah.
and stuff
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that. That would be great.
Yeah.
All right, if you could refresh the internet for the better and get rid of one channel or platform, which one would it be?
Probably say Meta.
Meta, yeah, okay.
I mean, again, I work in social media, which
Yeah.
is weird for me to say this, but I just feel like, there's too many manipulations going on. But
Yeah, fair
I
enough.
think Meta has a lot of atonement to do. with
Yes. Maybe the only way for it to turn is to go offline for a while,
do a hard refresh.
Do a hard refresh on Meta. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure I get many guests for that episode, to be honest. All right, and thinking ahead, when Generation Alpha refreshes marketing and looks back at us, what is the one thing they'll roast us for the most?
It's a great generation. I think it's a really interesting generation.
Yeah.
They're probably mortified by the things that we would have posted on social, maybe.
Yeah. on behalf of our brands.
I'm already mortified looking back at what I posted on social 10 years ago. I agree with them.
But when you look at the new, kind of the younger generation and what they post on kind of Snapchat or Snap each other, I'm like, oh my God, this is even worse than what we were even posting publicly on our Facebook. I know it's weird. Yeah, I think it's definitely, our meals.
Yeah, our lunches, our sandwiches,
Yeah, exactly.
our matcha lattes or whatever. Yeah. That's been a great conversation. I've really appreciated those insights and that gazing into the crystal ball. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Amaury Treguer, Kate O'Connor, Keshnee Kemp. Enjoy the rest of Save Social, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
If you like this refreshing conversation, you're going to love the rest of Hard Refresh. Join me and the smart minds of the State of Social 2025 crew as we deep dive on all the stuff that's coming up in the next 25 years of digital marketing. All episodes are now live anywhere you get your podcasts. And remember, sharing is caring. So tell a friend if you like what you hear. And also remember to rate and review us so more people can discover the show. Hard Refresh is a co-production of State of Social and Original Audio, produced by me, Andrés López-Varela, and Aaron Matthews for original audio. A big shout out to Cal McLean for production support and to our executive producer, Meg Coffey. I'm ALV. Join me next time when we'll hit Hard Refresh on something else.